I stood in the lobby of the exclusive club I paid for. My sister smirked, telling me there wasn't a chair for me at the main table. They wanted my credit card, not my company, so I left and took their lifestyle with me. This is where the story truly begins, and you won't want to miss what happens. Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. The rain was hammering against the windshield of my car, a relentless gray rhythm that matched the exhaustion seeping into my bones. I had driven 3 hours straight from a chaotic site visit in the city, skipping lunch and ignoring the headache pulsing behind my left eye, just to make it here on time. It was my parents' 35th wedding anniversary. That's a milestone you don't miss. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. I looked tired. There were shadows under my eyes that no amount of concealer could fully hide, the hallmark of a 32-year-old real estate developer who hadn't taken a proper vacation in 4 years. But I smiled, trying to summon the energy. I had a gift in the passenger seat, a voucher for a 3-week cruise through the Mediterranean. It had cost me a small fortune, but seeing my mom and dad happy was always worth the price tag. Or at least, that's what I had told myself for the last decade. The venue was the Gilded Oak, a private members-only dining club on the north side of town. It was the kind of place with mahogany paneling, hushed conversations, and a waiting list that stretched for years. I was the one who held the membership. I was the one who had pulled the strings to get us the private founder's room for tonight. I handed my keys to the valet, grabbed the heavy gift envelope, and hurried inside, shaking the rain from my coat. The warmth of the lobby hit me, smelling of beeswax and old money. "Good evening, Miss Vance," the maitre d', Arthur, greeted me with a warm nod. He knew me well. I practically lived here during contract negotiations. "Your party is already seated in the founder's room. Shall I escort you?" "No need, Arthur, thank you," I said, breathless. "I know the way." My heels clicked softly on the plush carpet as I navigated the corridor. I could hear laughter drifting from the room before I even reached the heavy double doors. It was my sister's laugh, Chloe. High-pitched, performative, the kind of laugh she used when she was trying to charm someone. I pushed the doors open, a smile plastered on my face, ready to shout, "Happy anniversary." The words died in my throat. The room was stunning, illuminated by the soft glow of a crystal chandelier. The round table in the center was set for 6, and every seat was taken. My father, Robert, sat at the head, looking distinguished in a suit I had bought him last Christmas. My mother, Susan, was to his right, wearing her pearls and beaming. Next to her was Chloe, looking immaculate in a silk dress that cost more than my first car. Next to Chloe sat a man I didn't recognize, handsome, sharp-jawed, looking bored. And on the other side of the table sat an older couple, presumably the man's parents. The laughter stopped abruptly as I entered. 6 pairs of eyes turned to me. The silence that followed wasn't just awkward, it was heavy, suffocating. "Elena," my mother said, her voice sounding strangely high, almost nervous. You're early." I stood in the doorway, clutching the cruise voucher, feeling like an intruder in my own club. I looked at the table. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There was no empty chair. There was no place setting for me. "I'm on time, Mom," I said, my voice steady despite the confusion swirling in my gut. 7:00 p.m., right? That's what the invitation said. Chloe took a sip of her wine, her eyes locking onto mine over the rim of the glass. There was no warmth in her gaze, only a cool, calculated challenge. She set the glass down with a deliberate clink. "Actually, Elle," Chloe said, her tone dripping with a faux sweetness that made my skin crawl. "We started a bit early. Cocktails and appetizers." "Okay," I said, stepping further into the room. "Well, I'm here now. Where should I sit?" I looked around for a waiter to grab an extra chair. "About that," my father cleared his throat, avoiding my eyes. He adjusted his napkin nervously. "Elena, honey, this dinner, it's a bit of a specific dynamic tonight." I froze. What does that mean? Chloe sighed, as if explaining quantum physics to a toddler. She gestured to the man beside her. "This is Liam, my fiancé." I blinked. "Fiancé since when?" "Since last week," Chloe said breezily. "And these are his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Sterling. We're discussing the wedding details. It's an intimate gathering for immediate family and the in-laws to bond." I felt the blood drain from my face. "I am immediate family, Chloe. I'm your sister. I'm their daughter." Chloe furred a small, pitying smile. "Technically, yes, but Liam's family is very traditional. We wanted to keep the table balanced. Couples only. It just looks better for the photos and the conversation flows better. You know how you get with your work talk. It's just not the vibe for tonight." I looked at my mother. I waited for her to stand up. I waited for her to say, "Don't be ridiculous, Chloe. Pull up a chair for your sister." Instead, Mom looked down at her plate. "It's just for tonight, Elena. We can do a family brunch next week, just us." "There isn't a seat for me," I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "The table only seats 6 comfortably," Chloe said, shrugging. "You can grab a bite at the bar in the lobby, put it on your tab. We'll text you when we're done with the speeches so you can come say hi." The realization hit me like a physical blow to the chest. They didn't want me here. They were ashamed of me, or perhaps I was just inconvenient. I wasn't the shiny, trophy daughter getting married to a wealthy Sterling. I was just Elena, the worker bee, the bank account. But they expected me to wait in the lobby, like a chauffeur, like a servant. "You want me to wait outside?" I asked, gripping the envelope so hard the paper crinkled. "Don't make a scene, Elena," Dad said, his voice sharpening. "It's special for your sister. Just be flexible for once." I looked at the stranger, Liam, who was watching me with mild amusement. I looked at my parents, shrinking into their seats to avoid confrontation. And I looked at Chloe, the smirk playing on her lips, victorious. It wasn't just a dinner. It was an erasure of my entire existence. For a moment, the room spun. The scent of roasted duck and expensive perfume became nauseating. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. Be flexible. That had been the mantra of my life. Elena can handle it. Elena understands. Elena doesn't mind. I looked at the table again. The crystal glasses sparkled under the light, glasses I paid the membership fees to access. The wine they were drinking was a vintage Barolo. I knew because I had taught my father to appreciate it. The very suit on my father's back. "Right," I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, calm, detached, cold. "Flexible." "Thanks for understanding, Elle," Chloe said, already turning back to Mrs. Sterling. "Oh, and on your way out, can you tell the sommelier to bring another bottle, the 08. She didn't even watch me leave. She just assumed I would do it. She assumed I would walk out to the bar, sit alone, eat a Cobb salad, and pick up the $5,000 tab at the end of the night. I turned around. I didn't slam the door. I didn't scream. I simply walked out. As the heavy doors clicked shut behind me, the silence of the corridor enveloped me. My legs felt like jelly. I had to lean against the wall for a second, squeezing my eyes shut. The image of my mother looking down at her plate burned behind my eyelids. She couldn't even look at me. She chose the seating arrangement over her own daughter. I pushed off the wall and started walking, faster now. I needed air. I needed to get away from the smell of this place. "Ms. Vance." I nearly collided with Arthur, the maitre d'. He was holding a bottle of the 2008 Barolo. He stopped, looking concerned. "I was just bringing this to your table. Is everything satisfactory?" I stared at the bottle. It was $400. "No, Arthur," I said, "it's not." He paused, sensing the tremor in my voice. "Ms. Vance, what happened?" "I'm leaving," I said. "I'm not dining tonight." "But your party," Arthur gestured toward the founder's room. "They just ordered the tasting menu, the white truffle supplement." Of course they did. Chloe loved truffles, especially when she wasn't paying for them. "Arthur," I said, stepping closer, "listen to me very carefully." "Yes, Ms. Vance." "I want you to cancel my authorization for this dinner," I said. Arthur's eyes widened. I beg your pardon." "The credit card on file," I said, my voice hardening into steel. It is not to be used for the party in the founder's room. Not for the food, not for the wine, not for the room rental fee. Nothing. But they are your guests, Arthur stammered. The bill, who will pay it? That's a question for them, I said. They are immediate family. I'm sure they can figure it out. Ms. Vance, this is highly irregular. If I present them with the bill at the end of the night and they cannot pay, then you follow standard club protocol, I said. Call security, call the police. It's not my concern. I was told I wasn't part of the dinner. Therefore, I am not paying for the dinner. Arthur looked at me, really looked at me. He had seen me bring my parents here for years. He had seen me pay every single time. He saw the tears threatening to spill from my eyes and the rigid set of my jaw. He nodded slowly. Understood, Ms. Vance. I will remove your card from the tab immediately. Thank you, Arthur. I walked out into the rain. I didn't even wait for the valet. I walked straight to my car, the cold water soaking through my coat, ruining the silk, chilling me to the bone. It felt good. It felt real. I got into the driver's seat and tossed the cruise voucher onto the dashboard. It landed face down. My phone buzzed, a text from Chloe. Don't be dramatic. Just wait in the bar. We need you to drive Mom and Dad home later anyway, because Liam's car is a two-seater. I stared at the screen. The audacity was breathtaking. They didn't just want my money, they wanted my labor. They wanted me to be the servant, the chauffeur, the bank, but never the family. I put the car in gear and reversed out of the spot. But they had forgotten one crucial thing. I whispered to the empty car. I wasn't just the daughter who paid for dinner. I was the landlord. To understand why walking out of that restaurant felt like cutting off a limb, you have to understand what I had built for them. 10 years ago, my father's hardware business collapsed. It wasn't just a bankruptcy, it was a demolition. They lost the house I grew up in, the cars, the savings. Chloe was 16 then, the baby, the princess. I was 22, fresh out of college, working as a junior analyst at a property firm. I didn't have a life in my 20s. I didn't date. I didn't travel. I worked 80-hour weeks. I scraped together every commission, every bonus, and I bought a modest 3-bedroom house in a nice suburb. I told them they could live there until they got back on their feet. They never did. Dad consulted occasionally, but mostly he played golf at public courses until I bought him the club membership. Mom volunteered at the local animal shelter, which was noble, but it didn't pay the electric bill. I paid the mortgage. I paid the taxes. I paid for the new roof when it leaked in 2019. I paid for Chloe's college tuition, her semester abroad in Florence, and the endless stream of startup costs for her failed businesses. A jewelry line, a lifestyle blog, a dog-walking app. I became the safety net, and slowly, the net became a hammock. Chloe, now 26, was a content creator. In reality, she was a professional leech. She was beautiful, undeniably so, blonde, petite, with a way of looking at you that made you want to please her. She had spent her entire life being told she was special, mostly by our parents, who seemed to think her beauty was a family achievement that required constant maintenance. I was the dark horse, the serious one, the one in the blazer. I arrived back at my apartment, my actual home, around 8:30 p.m. It was a stark, modern penthouse downtown. I poured myself a glass of cheap wine, stripped off my damp clothes, and put on a bathrobe. I sat by the window, looking out at the city lights. My phone had been buzzing incessantly for the last 20 minutes. I finally picked it up. 7 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Dad, 12 texts from Chloe. I opened Chloe's messages first. 8:15 p.m., where are you? The waiter just came over with the wine list and asked for a card. 8:17 p.m., Elena, stop playing games, send me a pic of your Amex. Now. 8:22 p.m., this is humiliating. Liam's dad just offered to pay, but Dad told him you had it handled. You are making US look bad. 8:30 p.m., pick up the phone. I could picture the scene, the panic setting in. The realization that the rich family facade was crumbling in front of the Sterlings. My father, sweating in his suit, trying to explain why his credit card was declined, because it was maxed out and I usually paid it off at the end of the month. Then a new text came in from a number I didn't know. It was a picture. It was a selfie of Chloe and Liam. Chloe was making a sad, pouty face. The caption read, "Family drama night. Some people are just so jealous of others' happiness. Toxic boundaries." She had posted it to her Instagram story. I checked her profile. She had tagged me. I felt a cold rage settle in my stomach. It wasn't the hot, fiery anger of the restaurant. This was different. This was precise. This was the kind of cold focus I used when I was tearing down a dilapidated building to make way for a skyscraper. They thought I was jealous. They thought I was toxic for refusing to pay for a dinner I was kicked out of. I opened my laptop. I wasn't just the one who paid the bills. I was the one who signed the deeds. The house they lived in, the beautiful colonial with the wraparound porch where Chloe filmed her morning routine videos, was solely in my name. There was no lease. There was no rental agreement. They were guests at will. And the antagonist of my life wasn't just Chloe. It was the system I had built. A system where Chloe was the sun and I was just the gravity holding everything in place. Chloe had always been the polished one. She knew how to dress, how to flirt, how to social climb. She had met Liam Sterling at a charity gala I had bought tickets for. Liam was an investment banker, old money, the kind of guy who cared about pedigree. Chloe had sold him a lie, that she came from a wealthy, established family, and that I was just the workaholic sister who was a bit odd. I zoomed in on the photo of Liam in the Instagram story. He looked at Chloe with adoration, completely unaware that the dress she was wearing was bought with my points, that the house she lived in was mine, and that the only reason she was sitting in that club was because I paid the dues. They wanted immediate family. They were about to learn exactly what that meant when the subsidies ran dry. I opened my email and composed a new message, but not to my family. I typed in the email address of my real estate attorney, Sarah. Subject, notice to vacate / sale of property, 142 Maple Drive. I hovered my finger over the send button. My phone rang again. It was my dad. I let it go to voicemail. Then a voice message popped up. I pressed play. Elena, my father's voice was hushed, frantic. "You need to call the club immediately. There's been a mistake with the bill. Mr. Sterling is looking at me like I'm a pauper. Chloe is in tears in the bathroom. Fix this. Now." Fix this. The command snapped the last thread of guilt I had. I hit send on the email to my lawyer. The morning after the dinner, I didn't wake up with a hangover. I woke up with clarity. It was a cold, sharp feeling, like the air in a server room. I sat up in bed, the silence of my penthouse wrapping around me. For years, my mornings had begun with a mental checklist of their needs. Did I transfer the money for Mom's Pilates? Did I remind Dad about his cardiologist appointment? Did I check Chloe's credit card balance? Today, the list was blank. Or rather, it had been replaced by a demolition order. I reached for my phone on the nightstand. There were 34 new messages. I didn't read them. Instead, I opened my banking app. First, the credit cards. My father had a platinum card, for emergencies. My mother had a gold card, for groceries. Chloe had a supplementary black card attached to my primary business account, a perk I had foolishly given her when she claimed she needed it for networking. I clicked on Chloe's card. The transaction history was a scrolling testament to my stupidity. Sephora, $450. The Gilded Oak bar tab, $120 attempted last night, declined. Uber Black, $85 attempted last night, declined. I smiled, a small tight smile. I tapped the report lost stolen button for all 3 cards. Then, just to be thorough, I called the bank's priority line. "Good morning, Ms. Vance," the operator said, his voice smooth. "How can I help you?" "I need to remove 3 authorized users from my account entirely," I said, sipping my coffee. Robert, Susan, and Chloe Vance, effective immediately. And please issue a stop payment on any pending charges from the last 24 hours that seem irregular. Certainly, done. Is there anything else? Yes, the Gilded Oak membership. It's in my name, but my parents have access cards. I'd like to cancel the family add-on package. Downgrade me to a single, individual membership. And please inform the front desk that my guest passes have been revoked. I can process that, but there is a cancellation fee for the family bundle. Pay it, I said. Whatever it costs, it's cheaper than the alternative. By 9:00 a.m., I was in my office. The city skyline sprawled out behind me, a grid of steel and glass that I understood better than I understood my own blood relatives. My assistant, erratic but brilliant, buzzed me. Sarah is here. She says it's urgent. Sarah was my real estate attorney. She walked in, looking impeccable in a navy suit, holding a file folder like a weapon. She sat down opposite me and didn't waste time on pleasantries. I got your email last night, Sarah said, opening the folder. You want to serve a notice to quit on 142 Maple Drive. Are you sure, Elena? That's your parents' house. It's my house, I corrected her, leaning forward. They are tenants at will. They pay zero rent, they have no lease. And as of last night, they have worn out their welcome. Sarah studied my face for a moment. She had known me for years. She knew how much I protected them. She saw the hardness in my eyes now, the lack of hesitation. Okay, she said, pulling out a document. Since there's no lease, the law requires a 30-day notice. We can serve them today. It gives them until the end of the month to vacate. Do it, I said. Hire a process server. I don't want to deliver it myself. Consider it done, Sarah said. She hesitated, then pulled another paper from her bag. But before you go scorched earth, there's something else you should see. When you asked me to look into the title deed to make sure everything was clean for the sale, I did a quick background check on the address to see if any liens had been filed against it. And no liens, Sarah said, but I found a listing. A listing? I haven't listed it yet. You haven't, Sarah slid a printout across the desk. But someone else did, on a private luxury rental site for short-term vacation stays, and on a wedding venue scout site. I picked up the paper, my stomach dropped. There, in glossy high definition, was my house, 142 Maple Drive, but the description didn't say, owned by Elena Vance. It read, the Vance Estate, owned by Chloe Vance, interior designer and heiress, available for exclusive photo shoots and intimate garden weddings. I stared at the photo. It was a picture of the living room I had renovated, the furniture I had bought. She's listing it as her own, I whispered. She's claiming she owns it. It gets worse, Sarah said, her voice grim. Look at the second page. I flipped it over. It was a profile for Chloe Vance Designs. The portfolio was filled with photos of my projects. The downtown loft renovation I did in 2022. The seaside villa I restored last year. She had watermarked them with her initials. She's pitching herself to the Sterlings, to Liam as a wealthy developer, Sarah said. She's using your assets, your house, and your career to build a dowry. My hand trembled, not with sadness, but with pure, unadulterated fury. This wasn't just mooching. This was identity theft. This was fraud. She told them she was immediate family, and I was just a guest, I said, my voice low. Because if they knew who I really was, if they knew I was the one who actually owned everything, her entire house of cards would collapse. I looked up at Sarah. Serve the eviction notice, but add a cease and desist for the copyright infringement on my designs. And Sarah. Yes. Find out everything you can about Liam Sterling. I want to know exactly what lie she sold him, so I know exactly how to dismantle it. The fallout didn't wait for business hours to end. I was at home that evening, sitting on my sofa with a glass of wine, a Pinot Noir I had bought for myself, not for them, when the intercom buzzed. It was the frantic, aggressive buzz of someone leaning on the button. Concierge, Ms. Vance, your parents and sister are here. They say it's an emergency. I took a sip of wine. Send them up. I unlocked the door but left the chain off. I walked back to the living room and sat down. I didn't turn off the TV. I wanted them to see how little their crisis affected my peace. The door flew open. My mother led the charge, her face blotchy and red, her hair frizzy from the humidity. My father followed, looking pale and shaken. And trailing behind them was Chloe, her eyes swollen, mascara running down her cheeks in streaks that looked almost painterly. "How could you?" my mother shrieked before she was even fully inside. She threw her purse onto my armchair, an Eames chair she didn't know the value of, and pointed a shaking finger at me. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Hello to you too," I said calmly. "I assume you got my email, or did the process server beat me to it?" "The credit cards," Dad shouted, stepping forward. "We tried to buy gas on the way over. Declined. We tried to get breakfast this morning. Declined. Do you know how embarrassing it is to have a card rejected for a $5 coffee?" "I imagine it's very embarrassing," I said. "Almost as embarrassing as being told there isn't a seat for you at a dinner you paid for." "That was different," Chloe screamed. She stomped her foot, actually stomped it like a toddler. "That was for Liam, it was strategy, and now you've ruined everything. The club called Dad this morning. They said our membership is canceled. Liam's dad is a member there. If he finds out we got kicked out, he'll think we're trash." "You are trash, Chloe," I said. The room went silent. The air pressure seemed to drop. My parents looked at me in shock. I had never spoken to her like that. I had always been the peacemaker, the doormat. "Excuse me," Chloe whispered. I stood up. I was taller than her. I was wearing my work clothes, sharp, tailored, expensive. She was wearing sweatpants and a hoodie. "You invited me to a dinner to use my credit card," I said, my voice steady. "You humiliated me in front of strangers. You told me I wasn't immediate family." "Fine, I accepted that. I removed myself from your family. And since I'm not family, I'm certainly not your financier." "We are your parents," Mom cried, tears welling up. "We raised you, we sacrificed for you." "And I have paid you back," I snapped. "With interest. For 10 years, I have paid every bill. I bought the house you sleep in. I bought the car you drove here. I bought the clothes on your backs. And what did I get? Wait in the lobby, Elena. Be flexible, Elena." I reached onto the coffee table and picked up the thick envelope the process server had delivered to me, copies of what they had received an hour ago. "This is the notice to quit," I said, tossing it onto the table. It landed with a heavy thud. "You have 30 days to vacate 142 Maple Drive. I'm listing it on the 1st of the month." "You can't do that," Dad sputtered, his face turning a dangerous shade of purple. "That's our home." "It's my house," I said, "and I'm selling it." Chloe let out a wail that sounded like a siren. "You can't. Liam loves that house. I told him it was my inheritance from Grandma. We're supposed to have the engagement party in the garden next month." "Ah," I said, a cold smile touching my lips. "There it is, the lie." I picked up the printout Sarah had given me, the Chloe Vance Designs profile. "You told him it was your inheritance?" I asked. "Did you also tell him that you're a successful architect, that you designed the Riverside loft?" I held up the picture of my project. Chloe's face went white. She stopped crying instantly. The fear in her eyes was genuine. "Where did you get that?" she hissed. "My lawyer found it," I said. "You're stealing my work, Chloe. You're committing fraud to trap a rich husband." "It's not fraud," Chloe yelled. "It's branding. I was going to tell him eventually. Once we were married, it wouldn't matter. Why are you doing this? Are you that jealous that I found someone and you're alone?" "I'm not alone," I said. "I have my dignity, and I have my house, which is more than you'll have in 30 days. "Elena, please," Mom stepped in, her tone shifting from anger to desperation. She reached out to touch my arm. I pulled away. "Don't do this. He's a sterling. This is Chloe's chance. If she marries him, we're all set for life. He has millions, just play along for a few more months. Until the wedding, Please, don't ruin this for your sister. I looked at my mother, really looked at her. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was asking me to be an accomplice in a con. She was asking me to continue being the invisible bankroll so Chloe could play princess. Get out, I said. Elena. Get out, I screamed, the sound tearing from my throat, raw and jagged. Get out of my apartment. Get out of my life. You have 30 days. They scrambled back. My father looked terrified. Chloe looked murderous. My mother looked defeated. As they retreated to the elevator, Chloe turned back one last time. You'll regret this, she spat. Liam will fix this. He has lawyers too. He'll destroy you. Let him try, I said. I'd love to meet him. I slammed the door and locked it. My hands were shaking. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel tired. I felt alive. The next week was a war of attrition. They didn't leave the house, of course. They dug in. My mother sent me long, rambling emails about family loyalty and biblical forgiveness. My father left voicemails threatening to sue me for elder abuse, which my lawyer found hilarious. But Chloe went on the offensive. She posted a video on TikTok. She didn't name me, but she told a tearful story about her abusive, narcissist sister who was trying to make her homeless out of jealousy over her engagement. It went viral. I had strangers in my DMs calling me a monster. I didn't respond, I didn't comment, I just forwarded the link to Sarah. Add it to the defamation file, I wrote. But the real escalation came on Thursday. I was at a site inspection when my phone rang. It was a number with a Manhattan area code. This is Elena Vance, I answered, putting on my hard hat. Ms. Vance, this is Charles Sterling, Liam's father. I froze. I signaled to my foreman to give me a minute and walked to a quieter corner of the construction site. Mr. Sterling, I said, keeping my voice neutral, to what do I owe the pleasure? I believe there has been a misunderstanding regarding the membership at the Gilded Oak, he said. His voice was clipped, authoritative, the voice of a man who wasn't used to being inconvenienced. I was told my son's fiancé's family membership has been revoked due to non-payment. I find that hard to believe given the portfolio Chloe showed us. The portfolio, I asked. Yes, she showed us the deeds to the Maple Drive estate and several commercial properties she manages. I'm confused as to why a woman with such assets would have her club membership canceled. My grip on the phone tightened. She showed them deeds. She must have forged them. Or maybe she just showed them the house and said she had the deeds. Mr. Sterling, I said carefully, I think you and I need to have a conversation, in person, without Chloe. I agree, he said. Liam is distraught. He feels there is bad blood between you sisters and he wants to mediate. But I am a businessman. I smell a rat. There is a rat, I said, and it's eating your cheese. Meet me at my office, tomorrow, 10:00 a.m. I'll be there. I hung up. This was it, the turning point. That night, I went to my office and printed everything. The true deed to 142 Maple Drive. The mortgage statements showing my payments. The transfer receipts for every dollar I had sent my parents. The cease and desist regarding Chloe's design theft. And the piece de resistance, the text messages from that night at the club. Wait in the lobby. Send me a pic of your Amex. I put it all in a binder. The next morning, I walked into the Sterling and Sons headquarters. It was intimidating, marble floors, security guards who looked like ex-military, but I walked in with my head high. I was a developer. I built places like this. Charles Sterling was waiting for me in a glass-walled conference room. Liam was there too. He looked younger than I remembered, anxious, fiddling with his watch. Ms. Vance, Charles said, not standing up. Thank you for coming. Thank you for seeing me, I said, placing the binder on the table. Chloe says you're trying to evict her illegally, Liam blurted out. She says you're mentally unstable and you've been obsessed with taking her down since we got engaged. I looked at Liam. He was in love. He was defending his woman. It was almost sweet if it wasn't so pathetic. Liam, I said gently, I don't care about your engagement. I care about my property. Her property, Liam scoffed. She told me about the trust. She said the house is in a family trust that you manage, but she's the beneficiary. There is no trust, I said. I opened the binder. This is the deed, recorded in the county clerk's office in 2016. Sole owner, Elena Vance. I slid it across the table. Charles picked it up. He put on his reading glasses. And this, I slid the next document, is the mortgage payment history. Paid from my personal account. And this, I slid the screenshots of the texts, is why I kicked them out of the club. They didn't invite me to dinner, Liam. They invited my credit card. When I refused to pay for a meal, I wasn't allowed to eat, they panicked. Liam looked at the texts. His face paled. Don't be dramatic, just wait in the bar. She told me you were sick, Liam whispered. She said you had a migraine and had to go home. She lied, I said, just like she lied about the house, just like she lied about her career. I pulled out the final document, the side-by-side comparison of my portfolio and her fake one. She's not an architect, Liam. She's never designed a birdhouse, let alone a loft. She stole my work to impress you. Charles Sterling looked up from the papers. His face was stone cold. He looked at his son. She's a fraud, Liam. No, Liam shook his head. She wouldn't, she loves me. Does she? I asked. Or does she love the security you offer? Because right now her parents are broke and she is about to be homeless. Suddenly, Liam's phone buzzed. Then mine, then Charles's office phone. It was a notification, a group text, no. It was a evite. You are cordially invited to the engagement party of Chloe Vance and Liam Sterling. Location, the Vance Estate Gardens, 142 Maple Drive. Date, next Saturday. She had sent out the invitations. She was doubling down. She was betting that I wouldn't dare evict them if she made it public. She was using the celebration as a human shield. Charles looked at the invitation on his phone, then back at the deed in his hand. She's hosting a party at a house she's being evicted from, Charles asked, an incredulous eyebrow raised. She thinks I won't cause a scene, I said. She thinks immediate family protects her. I stood up. I'm not going to stop the party, I said. In fact, I think I'll attend. I believe I have a seat at the table this time. The afternoon of the engagement party was perfect. The sun was golden. The air smelled of freshly cut grass I paid to have cut, and the caterers were setting up a lavish spread in the backyard of 142 Maple Drive. I arrived precisely at 2:00 p.m. I wore a white dress, not bridal white, but close enough to be a statement. Sharp, tailored, expensive, the kind of dress you wear to a boardroom execution. My car was the only one in the driveway besides the caterer's van. Chloe and my parents were inside, presumably getting ready. I walked through the side gate into the garden. It looked beautiful. Tables draped in white linens, floral arrangements that probably cost more than my first car, and a string quartet tuning their instruments under the old oak tree. Guests started arriving. Friends of Chloe's, distant relatives I hadn't seen in years, and of course, the Sterlings. Charles arrived with his wife, looking grim. Liam looked like he was walking to the gallows. My parents emerged from the house, beaming. My mother in a new dress paid for how? I wondered, my father clutching a glass of champagne. Then Chloe appeared. She looked radiant, floating in a pale pink gown, playing the part of the blushing bride-to-be perfectly. She spotted me near the bar. Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second, then hardened. She whispered something to Liam, who looked away. Then she walked over to me, her voice dripping with fake concern. Elena, you came. I wasn't sure if you'd be up for it. Wouldn't miss it for the world, I said, taking a sip of sparkling water. It's a big day for the family. Listen, she lowered her voice to a hiss. Don't cause a scene. Liam's parents are here. This is important. I know, I said, very important. People mingled. The quartet played Vivaldi. It was all very civilized, very immediate family. Then came the toasts. My father tapped a spoon against his glass. Everyone, if I could have your attention. The crowd quieted. My father stood on the patio steps, Chloe and Liam beside him. Today, we celebrate love, my father began, his voice thick with emotion. We celebrate my beautiful daughter, Chloe, and the wonderful man she has chosen, Liam. We are so proud of the life they are building together. And we are so happy to welcome the Sterlings into our home. Our home. I set my glass down on a table with a deliberate clink. Actually, Dad, I said, my voice carrying clearly across the silent garden. About that. He froze, every head turned toward me. Elena, don't, my mother whispered from the front row. I walked toward the patio. I didn't shout. I didn't need to. I think there's been a misunderstanding, I said, smiling pleasantly at the guests. This isn't your home, it's mine. A ripple of confusion went through the crowd. Chloe's face turned ashen. Elena, you're drunk, Chloe snapped. Security, someone get her out of here. I'm not drunk, I said, pulling a folded document from my clutch. And I don't need security, I need a moving van. I held up the deed. This is the deed to 142 Maple Drive, I announced. Recorded in my name. And this, I held up the eviction notice, is the legal notice to vacate that was served to my parents and sister 3 days ago. Gasps erupted. Charles Sterling stepped forward, his face unreadable. Is this true? A guest asked. It is, I said. My sister, Chloe, has been living here rent-free for 6 years. My parents for 10, they have never paid a dime. And yet, when I was invited to their celebration dinner last week, I was told there wasn't a seat for me because I wasn't immediate family. I was told to wait in the lobby. Lies, Chloe screamed. She's lying. She's jealous because I'm getting married and she's a lonely spinster. Am I? I looked at Liam. Liam, tell them about the credit card receipts. Tell them about the portfolio she showed you. Liam looked at Chloe. He looked at the beautiful garden, the expensive party, the lie he had almost married into. She showed me a portfolio of buildings she claimed she designed, Liam said, his voice shaking. She said this house was in a trust for her. I designed those buildings, I said, and there is no trust. There is only me, the bank. Chloe lunged at me, actually lunged. You ruined everything. My father grabbed her arm. My mother was sobbing into her hands. I didn't ruin anything, Chloe, I said, stepping back calmly. I just stopped paying for the illusion. I turned to the guests. I apologize for the interruption. Please enjoy the champagne. I paid for that too, but the party is over. You have 30 minutes to clear the property before I change the locks. Total chaos. The guests scattered like roaches when the lights turn on. The Sterlings walked away without a word, Charles putting a firm hand on Liam's shoulder and steering him toward their car. Liam didn't look back. Chloe stood alone on the patio, the princess of a crumbling kingdom. She screamed at my back as I walked to my car. I hate you, I hate you. I know, I said without turning around, but you'll have to hate me from somewhere else. The eviction was messy, loud, and public. They didn't leave in 30 days. They left in 3. The embarrassment of the garden party incident spread through our social circles like wildfire. The Sterlings officially called off the engagement the next morning. Charles sent a polite, terse email to my lawyer confirming that all ties were severed and thanking me for saving his family from a significant error in judgment. My parents moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in a neighboring town. It was nice, clean, and perfectly adequate. I paid the first 6 months of rent, my final gift, and then blocked their numbers. Chloe moved in with a friend, then another friend, then eventually had to get a job as a receptionist at a gym. I heard she started a new TikTok account about overcoming toxic family trauma, but it didn't get much traction. Without the backdrop of my house and my lifestyle, the aesthetic just wasn't there. As for me, I sold 142 Maple Drive. It went for 20% over asking. I took the money and paid off my own penthouse mortgage. 6 months later, I sat in the Gilded Oak, not in the founder's room, but at a quiet table by the window. I was alone. Arthur, the maitre d', approached with a bottle of wine. "The 2008 Barolo, Miss Vance?" he asked with a genuine smile. "Please, Arthur," I said. He poured a glass. I looked around the room. It was warm, elegant, and peaceful. There were no demands on my time, no hidden invoices, no emotional blackmail. I raised the glass to the empty chair opposite me. "To flexibility," I whispered. I took a sip. It tasted like freedom,